show you today how I'm going to be polishing some of the wheels on the 1954 Bel Air. I picked up 4 older style mags and they're 14-inch, and I'm going to install some new tires on them. I'm just going to show you the process on probably 1 or 2 of the wheels of how I'm doing just a basic polish on the face. Nothing too fancy, just something you can do at home in your garage with pretty basic tools. Sanding and doing a little bit of polish on it, not to get a perfectly mirror finish, but definitely to shine it up to make your wheels look a little better on an alloy wheel. Okay, just to go over some of the items that are going to be needed for this. I do have various different grits of sandpaper. I have from 220 grit here, what I'm kind of using. Then I also have down to 320 grit. I have some 400 grit, then I go 800, 1500, and I do have some 2000 grit sandpaper to finalize it, just depending on how clean you want to get. I do use this little tool here. This one's nice because it's kind of like a Velcro setup, so you can cut paper onto here. I do have some pre-cut pieces here, which you can see, 1000 grit. I got some 400s, 1500s there for these little guys. I also do cut the regular round paper in order to save some money. This is from Home Depot. These are really good pads, and they have that lure lock or whatever they're called, lock and hold setup that you can just trim down and stick on here as well. I like this little guy because it's foam and it can kind of flex a little bit, so you can put it on the edge of the wheel and you can kind of curve it as needed to kind of some of the edges instead of just holding it. When you cut the sandpaper, I use this on the back side of the sandpaper just to give the sandpaper a little bit of a kind of density to it, I guess you can say, a little bit of push, so you have something kind of more to grip on instead of just the thin sandpaper. And then polishing wise, I'm just using a Harbor Freight 8-inch disc sander polisher, basic setup. This is also a Harbor Freight 3-piece buffing wheel set. I primarily use this little guy right here is what I've been using. This is a 6-inch wheel that I kind of modified to put on here. And I also use this one here. This is an 8-inch wheel, so you can kind of see the difference between the 6-inch and the 8-inch here. These are some 8-inch wheels here that are just brand new, I haven't used yet. This kit is only probably, I think, like 12 bucks. And I want to say that this 8-inch is maybe 69 bucks, 70 bucks at Harbor Freight, so not too bad. You can kind of see what I've been doing here on the wheel. I already started this one. I do have 2 of them on my vehicle already. You can see this one has some dimpling. I'm thinking this is where a wheel weight was, and maybe over the years it might have ate the face down a little bit. There is some curb checks and some chips and stuff like that that we're not going to repair. If you really did want to repair these back to new, especially on this side, you can see where I've kind of already leveled this out a little bit just by sanding it by hand. But really, you know, you would have to get this welded and then grind it down even. We're not looking to do all that. I'm just trying to make these look a little bit better than they were, get them polished out, you know, just to have a basic, nice, clean set of wheels on my car. These are going on a 1954 Bel Air, so these are just a clean little setup that'll make it look a lot better than what's on there currently. Alright, so you can kind of see here, I've already spent a little bit of time sanding this one down, kind of got the face done. This one is one that hasn't been sanded at all yet. It's still got the divots, still got all the bumps and everything around. And what I do is, this is just dish soap and water. And I take this and I spray this, and I'll spray the edge of the wheel. What you want to do is, you want to just stay as flat as possible and go the same motion forward and back. You don't want to circle, you just want to keep going forward and back around the wheel. And the reason why is because this will make it so that the scratch marks are in the same direction. So as you go from different grain, so that, like right now I'm doing a 220 because this was a really, really rough face. And then I'll work my way to a 320, then to a 400, then to an 800, and you keep going up. And the longer you kind of work on this and you go through each of the faces and get all the imperfections out of the aluminum, the better it's going to be once you start polishing. So like I said, I'm not going too crazy on this to get down and get every little imperfection out of these wheels, but I am trying to get them to at least they still have a little bit of shine on them once they're all said and done. And this wheel was actually pretty bad because it had the same divoting as this one. So that's why I had to take this 220. Normally I wouldn't start with such an aggressive face on a 220. Normally if your wheels are actually in pretty good condition, I'd probably start with an 800, maybe even 1,000, and then work my way up from the 1,000 to 1,500 to even 2,000, just on a good face wheel. These wheels are really old and they have a lot of, I think, like pitting and scarring and just everything over the years. So I'm trying to get these faces back up to, you know, decent condition where they're easy to polish, because I did the two other set of wheels and I didn't take that long on them, but they actually turned out pretty good. But I wanted to see if I can clean this one up. I kind of saved these two for last because these were the two worst condition wheels in regards to this pitting here. These weren't here on the original set, or excuse me, on the other two set of wheels. So I mean, you can see I've probably spent maybe 15-20 minutes sanding this face down as best I can and just kind of getting it cleaned up here just to make it look a little bit better, a little bit more uniform. You know, I could spend a lot more time on this, really sanding this edge and really polishing, but for what I'm going for, I'm just going to start working down on the different sizes of the sandpaper. Okay, so here I got the 320 grit sandpaper. The one I was just using on there was a 220 grit. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to take some scissors and go ahead and cut this. This type of sandpaper is just regular sandpaper, so ultimately what I'm doing here is I'm just taking it and just wrapping it around this pad just so I have, like I said, something to hang on to. Keeps your hands from getting a little fatigued, just hanging onto the little sandpaper. So something like that would work. Trim it down to whatever size works for you. Again, wet the sandpaper, wet the face of the wheel, and I'm doing one face at a time just because I like to tilt the wheel up when I'm working on it. Cool. All right, now I switched it to 800 grit from the 400. So same deal, just working my way around from the different size grits. I'm only working on one face at a time. Then I'll switch the wheel and I'll work on this face, and then I'll lay it back down and work on this. So I'm gonna do kind of each face at a time, showing what direction I'm setting the wheel up at. Okay, give you a little bit of close up of where we're at. This is now 1500 grit working here, and you can kind of see that there's some little scratches here. This is the stuff you want to start working out. You know, again, like I said, this ain't going to be a perfect polish, but this will get good enough where it's getting a lot smoother than what this was, and you can kind of see the discoloration in the aluminum here. Ultimately, that's what I'm trying to get out the best I can. You can see how this has like a nice even finish already, and this is just 1500 grit sandpaper. I'll work this out a little bit more and then probably call it good for what I'm going for. It's right here, working on 1500 grit. Just tilt the wheel, get going. Okay, so just kind of give you an idea of what we got going now. So this is now 1500 grit that I've hit with this edge, and you can already see I just cleaned it up with some glass cleaner, but it's already getting shiny. And this has not been polished at all. This is me just sanding with the 1500 grit in comparison to this. You can already see how much of a reflection it's getting just working through with that 1500. You know, like I said, you can really take your time and really work on these edges and get this looking amazing with just sandpaper, going through your layers and really getting down into this metal. But for me, not going to be doing that. Just want to show you guys, you know, how to make your wheel look a little bit better with, you know, a couple hours worth of work. This thing can look pretty good in comparison to what it was. Alright, well, I'm going to keep sanding on this and come back to you guys after I get a little bit more of this face cleaned up so it looks a lot better, because it's going to take me a good while to keep sanding around this. Still working on this fine grit, or excuse me, the coarse grit sandpaper. Get this edge down a little bit, broke down, and then I can start working the scratches out from the coarse sandpaper. But these wheels have had, I think, calcium deposits on them at some point in time, so the surface of the aluminum has like some staining, and ultimately that's what I'm trying to get out really on these, is just try to get some of those stains out so that when I buff them out, they'll kind of look a little shinier and won't have stains in them. I already buffed out 2 wheels, and I didn't really take a long time breaking down into this, and that's exactly what happened. Is the other 2 are shiny, but there's a little bit of like a, almost looks like water spots kind of in the aluminum, and that's the only thing I can think, is they had calcium deposits or something like that on it, and then somebody Scotch-Brighted it before I bought them in order to kind of make them look a little bit better. Okay, quick update where we're at. So basically the face is still sanded with the 15. The inside edges is just 220 currently. I had to do 220 because it was just too bad, and you can definitely see some of the scratches in it. So I'll be working my way down just from the 220 to the 320, 400, 800, 1000 to 1500. Same setup. Okay, so basically that's as much as I'm going to get it sanded down for what I'm trying to do here. This is basically all the way down to 1500 grit on all face of the wheel, and by no means is it perfect, and you can still see kind of like the discoloration in the aluminum, but once I start polishing it, this will be good enough for what I'm looking for. The wheel's pretty old and just been kind of beat on over the years, but polish it out a little bit and it's already looking 1,000 times better than what it was in comparison to that other wheel. You can see just kind of how bad it is. Okay, during this polishing process, I definitely recommend wearing gloves. Even during the sanding process, you should be wearing gloves. I put the coarse wheel on here. This is basically going to cut everything down on the wheel, and then we'll go with the softer one afterwards and polish it. What I'm using for this is a white Jeweler's Rouge. I'll basically turn it on, hit the wheel right here, let it kind of heat up and melt this all into the wheel. I'll use that periodically through the polishing process. I would also recommend wearing a face shield during this process, just because you get pretty dirty. It splashes kind of all over the face as you're doing this, so face shield is definitely recommended. Okay, just wanted to show you real quick how's it going. So you can see there's a really nice polish on the outside. And this is just the cutting wheel. I still need to do the buffing wheel and polishing wheel. But you can see already it's starting to turn out really nice. It's really smooth. I'll hit these edges a little bit more where these kind of curve checks were over on here. And then we start to do this whole inside edge. But it's starting to look really nice already. Okay, so what I'm doing now is just cleaning the wheel. Pretty much done polishing it as far as I'm going to go. I took a wire wheel, cleaned up the edges inside here where the tire is actually going to seat. And I'm just getting some glass cleaner. I'm just wiping down the wheel a little bit. Okay, there you have it. Polished out, as good as I feel like getting it. I think it looks pretty good. So there's a little bit of side-by-side comparison from basically one of the other ones that haven't been polished yet to this one. You can see definitely looks pretty good in comparison. I think it really cleans up the wheels. And this is by no means perfect, but it's a lot shinier than it was. Tires on it. So these hand cooked tires on it with these white walls here. That's what I got in the rear, so I got 2 more for those 2 wheels there. I'll go ahead and throw those on. I gotta get a brand new valve stem for this one because this one broke off. It's just old from these wheels. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button and look out for more videos and updates from the 1954 Bel Air. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.